From the Boston Globe, this is Rhode Island Report. I'm Ed Fitzpatrick. Welcome back to the podcast where we bring you big conversations from our very small state. Today, we're going outside for a hike.
All right. Good morning, guys. Thank you guys for coming out today. My name is Elliot. My pronouns are he, him.
Elliot Henderson is standing in front of a group of more than 20 people at the Wolf Hill Forest Preserve in Smithfield.
We're going to go on a hike this morning. I have one rule, which is if you're going to leave, please let me know. Otherwise, we're all adults. You guys can do whatever you want.
Elliot helps to organize these hikes, which happen about 4 to 2 times every month, depending on the season. He drove about 50 minutes from his home in New Bedford to get here today, but he didn't always love the outdoors.
In fact, I was very much an indoor kid. I was really into anime and books, and I didn't go outside a lot. Outdoor activities just weren't queer friendly. So I kind of stayed indoors because I didn't feel like there was a belonging for me there.
Queer hikes are designed to offer people like Elliot that sense of belonging, a place where they can be together and feel safe. The group started about 4 years ago.
So at that point, we were a year into the pandemic, and I was feeling pretty isolated.
That's Mel Thibeault, the founder of Queer Hikes.
I was missing connection to other queer folks. And it was that combined with, okay, how do I meet people when the vaccines might have just been rolling out or not quite? So, what's a safe way to meet and find community?
Get outside, right?
Get outside. There's a queer social app called Lex. So I posted there. I was like, are there any LGBTQ hiking groups in Rhode Island, in this area, southern New England? And a lot of people responded, and I said, no, but you should start one.
So she did.
And the first hike, I was like, will this work? Will this won't? And we had 15 people show up.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty good turnout for the first day,
for a
right?
first event.
Yeah.
From there, it was kind of like, we're on to something. There's clearly this need, all these people came out wanting the same thing of I'm looking for queer friends. I'm looking for a queer community. It was very sporadic at first, really no organization, but just we kept it going through the summer, through the fall.
And then organizations started reaching out to Mel, wanting to partner with Queer Hikes, the Buzzards Bay Coalition, the Audubon Society, local land trusts.
I was doing it by myself for the first few months, 6 months, and then I needed help. It was becoming a full-time job.
That's where Elliot came in. He's one of the group's planning pals, a group of volunteers that organizes, leads, and promotes the hikes.
I have been out since I was 13 years old, so I've been involved in some sort of queer organization mainly my whole life. I got really into hiking during the pandemic because everyone was inside, so I decided to go outside. And so coincidentally, when Mel made this group, I was like, that seems perfect. That seems like something I want to do.
Sylvia Vaccaro is one of the other planning pals at the hike today. She started coming to Queer Hikes because she missed hiking with her mom.
Unfortunately, we're estranged now, and so this was a nice way to reacquaint myself with something that, also had some painful memories attached to it. In a way that felt really healing and restorative.
She says she likes hiking because it can appeal to a lot of different types of people.
If you're really extroverted, you can talk to people the whole hike. If you're really introverted, you can kind of keep to yourself and you still have something like the hike to keep you occupied. Some people just want to come and hike and not be alone. It can be scary to hike alone, especially as a queer person. So you can show up with any energy that you want, and we'll make sure that you're happy and taken care of.
That's the main point of this group, having fun and taking care of each other. But in a time when LGBTQ plus rights are under attack, Mel says that even that is a political act.
I think merely by existing, we're being activists, especially in today's current climate. I could go either way. I could kind of get scared and hide, or show up for my community, and I think I'm choosing the latter because it's so important, just to say, hey, we exist, we're here, we're your neighbors, we're your friends, we're your family.
So the organizers wear Queer Hike t-shirts and patches with their logo, a picture of a raccoon with a bandana around its neck.
I personally think raccoons are very scrappy, and I think we are a scrappy bunch as well. I think they're the, what would you say, every man's animal.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Sylvia, did you have
Yeah, I don't know, I think there's an affinity with queer people and just like little creatures, so raccoons seemed fitting.
But Mel says sometimes even wearing these T-shirts can make her feel worried.
Like, as a woman and as a queer person, I don't know that I feel the most comfortable just walking around the woods by myself, especially wearing a shirt that says queer right on it. I do get a little nervous sometimes, but I think I try to put on a brave face and say, this is important and I'm going to wear it. And if someone's going to be rude to me, they're going to be rude to me. Maybe we start a conversation. Maybe we walk away. You know, it depends on the situation.
Does that happen where people are rude?
Not in person, no.
Yeah,
online,
online.
sure.
Online.
Yeah. And it's only happened a handful of times, and we don't comment on anything else. So we don't really invite to the discourse, but if it shows up, I just do my best to delete it.
I was curious what your reaction to the national environment now. I mean, I was just reading in the newspaper this morning about the Supreme Court decision that said parents were going to be able to take their children out of class if there was a storybook about LGBTQ themes. That's one example of many under the Trump administration. So what's been your reaction to that and other things?
We, as queer people, exist regardless of other folks' desires for us not to. And here we are. We're all going to gather and we're all going to go on a hike. And we're going to continue to exist regardless if they are going to tell our stories or not.
Let me ask about one other headline. Recently, the Trump administration told the National Suicide Prevention Hotline to stop offering services specifically to the LGBTQ community. Mm-hmm. What did you make of that?
I think it's just another example of them trying to remove queer people from public life. And removing a suicide hotline, I think, is particularly nefarious because it's removing resources from folks who are clearly in crisis, right? No one's really calling that hotline because they're doing great. I just think it's a very cowardly move. I think it's very pointed in terms of like them kind of openly saying we don't want these people around. And it does make me in some way think of like, oh, how can we as a group fill that void, if you will?
Sylvia says building this community of queer people is important no matter what they're doing.
They want to fracture and isolate, and so coming together in any capacity, even if it's purely for fun, even if we're not like organizing or being super politically active, just being together is already like forming those bonds.
It's nice just to be around your people and to feel safe, you know, to have like a safe space occasionally to kind of recharge.
Sharon LeBeau started coming on these hikes with her bestie Don Ruggiero a few years ago.
Did we start coming to this group together?
I think you found it first, and then you told me about it, and I was like, yeah, sounds good.
Sharon and Don do a lot of hiking on their own, but they say it's nice to be with other people.
Plus, we don't get lost when we come with the group. When we're on the road, we get lost.
Sharon says some of the younger hikers have no idea what it was like for queer people back in the 80s when she was a teenager.
I had a conversation with somebody just the other day. I was telling them when I started going to Pride, it wasn't a parade, it was a rally to get rights. And we weren't walking through the streets dancing, we were chanting. And the fear of things going back to that, you know, it's real. I think a lot of people are in a place where they take their freedoms for granted, you know. And with the way things are right now, the feeling that it could very easily go back to that, it's unnerving.
Dawn says it's exhausting to see politicians chip away at queer and trans rights. It's a lot to carry, but they're not backing down.
Because you just need to be authentic. I lived too long trying to be somebody that I wasn't, and it just was detrimental to my mental health, you know, trying to raise my kids and just trying to be somebody that I wasn't. You know, when people can't be who they need to be, it just affects everything. It just spreads out, you know, into other people in your life that you're not showing up for authentically. And as much as you try to suppress it, it just trickles out in other ways. So when we can't have that space to be who we need to be, you know, you see people just suffering, dying because of it.
Sharon has this advice for some of the younger people on the hike.
You just got to stick together, you know? Really, I mean, seriously, you have to stick together and you have to stand up for each other, no matter what. Because we're going to come to that place where you are going to have to make a stand.
Mel Thibeault, the founder of Queer Hikes, says that's the idea.
I think, this community just sees themselves being erased from society. So I think it's important for queer adults and allies to make some noise and say, we're here to support you. Sure, federally, things are not great, but I think that's where there's an opportunity for the local communities to step in and really band together.
As for today's hike, Elliot considers it a success.
Only thing, the leaves are kind of slippery, so I'm anxious about that, just making sure everyone gets down when we're going up or down. There's a lot of folks that came out, which is nice. Folks are talking, I'm having a great time, so hope other people are as well.
If you want to learn more about Queer Hikes or join them for an event, you can find them on Instagram at queer.hikes, or you can email the group at hikequeer@gmail.com. Rhode Island Report is a production of the Boston Globe. Today's episode was produced by Megan Hall. Our music is from APM. Be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. I'm Ed Fitzpatrick. See you next week.